Newfoundland Park, which is the best preserved trench area. This is a tiny section of the original trench. I think that's a caribou. Trenches just surround this point. The front line is just centre frame going across. It's the front trench. Heading off up there. Again centre frame. So all these were the support trenches. Germans down at the bottom of the valley. Okay, this is one of the maintained support trenches. It's one of the only ones you can walk through. This is looking towards the front line, which is about 40 metres in front of this position. And then the German trenches were down at the hill where the trees are. Now this preserved trench leads to the front line. You can just see it. Some remnants sticking out. So here's the Newfoundland front line, heading off into the distance, and there's still some metal pieces left in place, which I haven't seen anywhere else on the Somme. They do look like original. Here's another section of the original front line, so this is heading off in the opposite direction. You can see the way the trench goes backwards and forwards. It's not in a straight line. And then here's no man's land. So this is the land over which the Newfoundland troops advanced and were torn to pieces. The highest casualty rate on the first day of one battalion, and because they were all from such a small area, Newfoundland, about 90% of their young men were killed in this one area. Now this spot, beside which is a very old, dead looking piece of tree, this signifies the danger tree, and it's at this spot that most of the bodies were found. It's only about a third of the way from the Newfoundland lines to the German lines, and that's about 80 metres. So most of the bodies were found in this area. Now this, I don't know if this is a remnant of the tree. I'm assuming it is because it's been kept here. But it's very, very similar. There's the antlers on the caribou. I don't know if that's a reason it's been put up like this. This entire landscape is dotted with craters. There's a couple there, they're literally all over the place. This is the Y Ravine cemetery, looking from the German lines, or behind the German lines, up to the British lines, which were about 100 yards in front of the trees in the distance. Okay, here are the German trenches. Now whether after 90 odd years the erosion is less down here, but they look an awful lot taller, a lot heavier than the British ones. They continue across here. They just look bigger. This is another section of German trench. Some of the camera is facing straight towards the Caribou Monument, which is in the distance. And the monument is about 80 metres behind the British front line. That's how close they were. Okay, here's a part of the German trench. Possibly that's original support. Hard to tell from up here. Okay, this is more German trenching. Again, they're significantly bigger than the British. Much sturdier looking. Okay, it's the German trench line coming towards the camera. Veers around to the left and comes underneath here. In the distance, about 100 metres in front of the trees, is the British line, so very, very, very close. With the British front line again, in comparison to the German lines, not as big. Now this area, a few yards behind the front line, there's quite a big crater there with a trench right beside it, so that must have caused some injuries, I would have thought, at least. There's another crater. In fact, there's craters all over the place. Right, this is the biggest crater on the site I've seen so far, and one right beside it. So you can see the positions were under constant bombardment. Nowhere was safe. Okay, here's some more German trench lines. It says access strictly forbidden. Nobody told the sheep. Somehow they've broken in. There's also signs around saying there's unexploded ordnance here. Now this is a British memorial where I think 40 odd British soldiers were buried into a massive crater. So very unusual.